Yo, friend, what's going on? I'm stoked for this. We are getting the live Q&A chats back into the stream. This is something that we've been doing for years and took a break on for last year. So if you could, out of the gate, let me know if sound is good, if things sound great. We're going to be taking questions via video tonight. I'm about to drop the link into the chat. So look at this fancy new banner I just chucked up. We're going to do a quick session tonight. So we're going to be wrapped by around 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I believe it's standard time right now, not daylight time. Oh man, that always confuses me. And the goal here is to bring some people on, have them ask questions, have a quick conversation, and then try to provide some value or just hang out and chat and things like that. So the general theme that we've decided to go with tonight is via if being a creator is worth it. So that was kind of just a general thought process I had going into this, and I'd like to kind of reflect on some thoughts around that. I've got Nick here. He's on deck. Latest member of the team, the only additional member of the team besides Janelle and I. I'm going to bring him on and we're going to chat about one of the films that he just dropped as we get questions queued up. I just wanted to give people a chance to actually get into the chat. So I'm trying to make sure that we get it populated a little bit. I've got a new system here for bringing people on for live calls, thanks to some of the recommendations via the last stream. And I'm a little nervous about it, only because that I can only have 10 people on at a time. So that's a little bit of a downer, but that also is good because obviously I won't be able to get to more than 10 people. Like sometimes at most I get to 5. It just means the earliest people who are here are the ones who get their questions answered. So I'm going to paste something into the chat here, pin the comment. Let me find chat. First of all, I was using chat from a different window, and that has now not been a good idea. So let me paste this in real quick. So here's the StreamYard link. So if you'd like to join me live on video, if I have time, I'll pull you up via this link. So what you can do is click through. First 9 people will get in, and then I might have to kick people and reset it every now and again. But that's how we're going to do things. So it's at the top. You can click on that, and it'll bring you into the waiting room. So etiquette around this, I will have you sit in the waiting room, and then if you actually hop on the call with me, I'll try to give you a little heads up and just mute the stream on your end and only listen to it through the actual StreamYard interface, if that makes sense. So StreamYard was recommended through a couple people, and I still have it pumping through OBS at the same time. So that was the main question that I had. I wanted to be able to do some of this like video switching stuff. I don't have my third display, the black one there. I don't have that set up. That's using my computer. So let's bring Nick on. Nick is the latest member of the team. And introduce yourself, Nick. What I don't know.
Yeah,
Tell the
my name's
stream
Nick.
about you.
I also consider myself an outdoor adventure filmmaker, specifically within the hunting realm, most
Mhm.
recently. So that's pretty fun. What
Yeah,
else
I've
about me?
we met over 5 years ago. Does that count?
Yeah,
It's
no,
over
that
5
sounds
years
right.
ago, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and Nick was one of those people that it was pretty obvious that he was keen on outdoor adventure stuff pretty early on. I mean, we met in an outdoor program after all. Um, and someone else who's just as excited and sometimes more to wake up early and get early light shots and pull out the cameras and find good angles in the outdoors is always a good person to have around. So an ongoing
oh,
joke.
yeah.
Can you remember the earliest time I made the joke, Nick, about, hey, I need to hire you? Like, do
Oh
you
man, that was
recall
a
when that
pretty
would have been?
yeah. It was a long running joke. I don't know, probably maybe like at least 2 years ago. Could
Oh,
be
for
up to
sure.
three. No, at least 3 years ago, because that's when we did our Utah adventure trip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd been talking with Nick about bringing him on for a while, and he was working here in the Fraser Valley, and that happened midsummer last year. So Nick's been helping me with some of the behind the scenes stuff with some of the client work we do with Left Coast, and also just helping me keep my sanity in a year where we don't get to see very many people. So, uh, Nick, you've been working on these films behind the scenes while you've been working your job and working for clients as well. So Nick has clients of his own, and uh, you just released it. So
Mhm.
I'm going to put up a banner on where people can find it, but tell people about this project and also tell them, uh, talk to them about your balance about being a creator versus a filmmaker and how you see your personal self in that light.
Huh. Yeah. So this project is a hunting film from the 2019 hunting season. We went out chasing after mule deer and bighorn sheep, and it was a very long project in the making, longer than I'd like. It expanded over a year between shooting it and actually getting it wrapped. So I was super stoked to get it out. Um, I think like 2 weeks ago now. But
Mhm.
yeah, and it's had a really I've just had a lot of really awesome feedback on it, and I wouldn't say I got it to a place where I thought it was perfect, as is always the struggle. But I'm just very happy to have it at this point. Yeah, and then okay, what was part two there?
I mean, so interacting on that just a touch. Was this a so you just released this 2 weeks ago? What was the battle like actually finishing a project that you had shot previously, and it was mainly up to your own drive to get it finished? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's tough having a project, especially when there's no budget and no one kind of like hounding you to like there's no client. So except myself, basically, being like, yo, when's this done? So it's all up
Yeah,
to your own motivation. And then when there's no budget, you're not setting aside like this is like my work time where I'm actually like, taking steps towards completing something. It's all just in spare time and evenings and weekends and stuff like that, and mornings when I am able to get up early. But yeah, it's just it takes a little extra motivation, and I think a big part of the motivation for this one too was I have already shot another hunting film, and I just want to get working on
right.
that one because I'm even more excited about it than this last one. So
A backlog is not always the funnest thing.
yeah, and it seems like if you don't finish something within a year, it's very, very unlikely that you will ever finish it. So trying to
We
stick
are
within that year range is good.
Nick and I are running into that right now where he's helping me edit some story projects that we're hopefully launching very, very, very soon. But it is one of those things where now being over 3 years old, some of the footage, it does make you wonder. It just feels like, well, like what does another month matter in the grand scheme of things? But
Yeah.
it does matter. Do you do you think of your okay, so obviously I look at you as being a creator, and when I think about being a creator, it's hard for me to separate like the social media aspect of it from our current language around it. Um, do you see yourself like definitively more as a creator or as someone who's a video maker, or how do you think about what it is that you're doing And how do you think in that, do you think it's worth it?
Hmm. I think about that question a lot, maybe like once a week, specifically the is it worth it part. But I don't know. I feel like I don't know maybe what the difference between a creator and a video maker is, but motivation is it's mostly just to make sweet stuff that I'm proud of. So maybe that falls more under the creator versus really leveraging video as like a wild lucrative business opportunity. I don't think I'm really doing that, but I'm doing it because I love it, and I want to like finish these cool projects. And I was having a sort of internal battle recently where I was like, man, I see so many people like these other guys, especially even the hunting industry, photographers and filmmakers that are like really getting after it. Like they're spending like upwards of 200 days in the field, and like, wow. But I am realizing that the space I want to be in is making like quality over quantity, basically, and not sort of psyching myself out there and putting too high expectations on myself, because in the end I'm doing it because I really love it. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answered your question fully, but
is it hard to separate audience growth and performance from how satisfied you feel on the things you make? Like, are those a hard thing to differentiate in your experience? I mean, for me, those are certainly connected for sure. Like the amount of stoke I get on how well something's doing can greatly impact how I reflect on that project years down the road, for sure. Do you feel similarly?
Definitely. It's hard to separate those things. I'm on a much smaller scale, but yeah, when you get good feedback on something that you're proud of, it's like, and those line up, that's really satisfying. And then when you're really proud of something and it's like pretty quiet, then that's like, I don't know. That can be a little discouraging, but I try and like force myself to mentally separate it and just be like,
right,
I really enjoyed the process of making that, and that's the win there, not necessarily that everyone liked it or commented or whatever.
for sure. But like finding and narrowing down where you find meaning in something is definitely a theme that I'm thinking about more and more. And I don't think I had the language for it as clearly before, but now I'm realizing like that is the route to, if you're currently burnt out, those are some of the questions you should be asking of, am I finding meaning in what I'm currently like setting as the most important outcome from this? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes being like the most productive machine like person that just like outputs, that actually isn't what I find the most meaning in. So if that's the gradient scale that I'm evaluating my self performance off of, and how I feel about how I'm doing with work, I'm setting myself to be really disappointed with myself over and over and over again. And I think getting clear on that language is huge, right? Like the projects that we're editing right now for Left Coast, like some of these short films that we want to start coming out, if my place of meaning for that is I want these to be the best things I've ever made, I think I'll end up coming back short on that. I think I'll go, oh, these might not be the best things that I've ever made. And it's hard to be like, well, is it worth then finishing? Like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
a tough, it certainly is a tough question. And so then the meaning for these projects has to shift a little bit for me, where normally my barometer for the projects I invest tons of time into are, is this something new that's wildly challenging, has the potential to be the new best thing I've made? That's usually what was motivating me in the past. And then as I grow older, I'm realizing, hey, trying to outdo a previous version of myself, that's probably not the best way to do it, because now I don't have as much time as the previous version of myself. I've got a kid, I've got a wife, I've got a family. There's things that are, I can't operate under the same headspace as before. Although I do hope my best work is still ahead.
Yeah, that's a whole nother creative struggle. Hey, trying to like make sure you live up to your past work. That's
Oh
really
man, I can't
nerve-wracking too.
imagine. I am a little bit nervous for my mental health in my 40s. Like I just feel like I'm the right personality to have like a really proper breakdown going into my mid 40s into 50s. I just got this nice hunch. sensing that I'm already having like a 20s breakdown. I'm like, oh, that's probably coming. For those that are coming in live, fantastic to have you. We're going to do some rapid fire questions from people in the chat. We're going to pull up actual comments and highlight them on screen, kind of like this one right here. I think you're going to have a good experience. I can't remember what Nick was talking about here, maybe my new call software. So Nick, I agree. I'm going to have good experience. And I'm also going to pull people up to talk to me live like Nick is here. So Nick just joined the team and we've got good stuff coming. That's what I want to say. Adventure Film Academy, we're going to be making a lot more stuff in that space. And that's that. So if you haven't, please go check out, well, I'm guessing all of you haven't unless there's some crossover, but go follow Fargon Media on YouTube. He's not publishing there very often, but when he does publish, it's real good. So Nick, any like hook you want to give them going into that of why they should check out this hunting film you just dropped? Any like, why should they watch it? I'll give mine first as you think of yours. Yeah. So you think of yours. I thought what was my biggest like takeaway from it was I don't usually I don't hunt at all. And so getting to see some of like the prep work that goes into actually walking away from a successful hunt, the headspace of, hey, let's get to the zone so that way we can plan and look at the patterns of where animals are moving. And then even down to using like taking your boots off as a way to make less noise, to stock up on an animal. Like all of those things were really fascinating to me as someone who doesn't really hunt at all. So
yeah, we're just trying to, one of our goals with these hunting films is to make it a little more accessible to the non-hunting crowd, which is kind of a little bit more so my background than most people involved in that industry. Yeah, and just show what goes into that and really try and bring a cinematic element into it too. That's sort of what we're striving for. So yeah.
Right on. Okay, Nick, thanks for joining me. And Nick and I are getting out to go ski touring tomorrow, and it's going to be fun.
I'm going to keep packing here.
Yeah, get your stuff packed up.
Yeah.
Okay. Nick, by the way, as a guest, do you see down below new people populating, or does it not show you that?
Nope, just shows me.
Just shows you. It doesn't show my little icon or anything?
Nope, I don't believe so.
Okay, so I'm going to click remove here, and that should just pull it back to single screen. So take care, Nick, and have a good time packing.
See ya.
Cool. So we're back to my view here. We've got the secondary camera going on that we can switch to. Let me look in the chat here and pull up a comment. I'm going to boot Nick out of the lobby real quick. Let's kick guest. So again, there's a pinned comment at the top of the chat window. You can follow that by clicking it to expand it. And there's a StreamYard link. I'm also going to copy this info down into the chat. And I may or may not pull you up. We're going to do a briefer session tonight. Eli's currently on deck, so I'm going to pull Eli up here soon. And I'm also going to look through here on some questions. So this is one from Aaron Ross. You and Jesse talked on the podcast about how creating being your main income causes you to not enjoy creating anymore. What are you doing to find joy in creating? The YouTube channel for me has always been a playground. So oftentimes, like the tricky part about what I've set up with my life is so many ways that I have so many ways. The main ways that I have to make income almost all come back to my skill set of video. So I use video in a lot of different ways to make income. And some of those areas are more recharging than others. So I learned that when I'm a solo filmmaker taking on the entirety of a project for a client, that actually uses up lots of my mental resource, my resources of thinking creatively, my resources of getting motivated to edit when it's time to do post. And that can be challenging if there's things that I want to work on that I care about. So what I learned pretty early on is that if I've got a big client project underway and I've got a personal project I care about, one of them is going to win over, and I can't do both of them simultaneously great at the same time. So what I've tried to systematically do is not have as many other projects for outside people that are using the same creative resources that I want to be using for my own stuff over here. And one of the ways that I've accomplished that is by phasing out some of the quantity of client work I'm doing and replacing it with sponsored videos on the YouTube channel. So those kinds of creating for me is a little bit different than making stuff for a client. But then you're swapping the sponsored videos for the client work, and then now you've got a new area that is potentially not being as creatively stimulating. So I don't necessarily have a current solution to that problem beyond outsourcing and bringing on more people to help free up some of that creative energy. So for the longest time, just wanting to be good at creating on the internet was enough of a motivator to show up every week and make a video. And that motivation is kind of losing a little bit of meaning for me, if that makes sense. So I'm not as driven these days at growing a YouTube channel because I feel like I've done it. That my goal for growing the channel was, hey, let's hit 100K. That's going to take a lot of work. And that was the only like growth metric I ever set. And even now I've reevaluated and gone, actually, that maybe isn't the number that I even care about. Like, it's not the size of subscribers, it's the active people that are viewing every video that you post. So how am I, what are you doing to find joy in creating? For me, it's like completely switching it up. That's what I'll keep doing. If that's making a video about how to learn how to one wheel, I'll do that. If that's making videos of me building something, I'll do that. Most ways that I can not do a video about making video is usually a really good thing for me. So tomorrow, Nick and I are going to head out into the snow, and that is going to be hopefully a recharging day for me, because I honestly have had a hard time getting after it this year. Like, I've had a hard time I've found it challenging to get into a rhythm of creating again after taking a bit of a break, because I think I was a little bit burnt out. Well, no, I don't think I was. Like, I was burnt out. And so resetting from that hasn't been as easy as I would have hoped. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to go do something in the snow and then try to combine an idea that has to do with, I don't know what the idea is specifically going to be, but I think it's going to be a little clickbaity, like the 3 things I'm going to do to be more productive this year. And that's the video I'm going to make tomorrow. And hopefully that is a good video. Thanks for the question, Aaron. Eli, I'm going to pull you up here. Everyone else, please keep popping questions in the chat. I'm going to be looking that over here. And I'm also going to pull people in by video. So I've got Eli on deck, adding you to stream. What's up, Eli?
What's up? Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I'm just I'm a landscape. I'm mostly more of a photographer side, but I'm based in the Washington DC area.
What's that like? Like, so just hold up a sec. So like in my head, when I tell people where I'm from, I say I'm like near Vancouver. So when you say Washington DC area, like what does that mean in practicality?
The area is called the DMV, like Southern Maryland, Northern Virginia, DC area. Basically within biking distance of DC is kind of the DC area. Like,
okay.
Like I'm right outside DC. I'm like 6 miles away, but yeah, it's just this general. If you can kind of take the subway, you're kind of in the DC area.
Did you grow up in that area?
Yeah, I'm only 16, so I still live here.
Yeah, what was that like growing up there? Like, is there a certain energy to being in a town that's got so many career government workers? Like, is there like what is a defining characteristic about where you live?
Oh, I mean, I got like half of each presidential administration that lives within a mile of me.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that there's like Secret Service that drives down the street every once in a while.
Right.
But then like you're also like a few miles away from the chaos when that happens. That's happened not that long ago.
Right. There has been a few chaotic moments, hasn't there?
Just a little bit. But I normally do press photography, but I'm not trying to get COVID, so.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's what I normally do. I did it all over the summer when COVID was low, but it kind of got a little sketchy now.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. I don't follow sports very much. I'm kind of a bit of this kind of did it in for me, but the Vancouver Canucks, I think in 2010, was it 2010? What year was they?
I don't know.
They're in the finals and they had a riot, and like my first not they, the team, but fans afterwards and non-fans, just like professional riders. That was the word that was coined for some of them. Basically, Vancouver fans burnt their own town down. And I live about an hour and a half away. And my first instinct was I need to grab a camera and go in there and film it. But that perspective definitely would have changed if there's like a disease that is also air transmissible going around at the exact same time. But that would have been my instinct, whether it's a healthy instinct or not, whenever there's chaos going on.
Normally I'm fine during the summer just because the group was protesting over the summer would wear a mask, but the group that recently has been thousands and thousands of maskless people, so you're kind of guaranteed to get COVID if you go cover that.
Oh geez. Do you have a question that we can talk about?
Let's see. Trying to think of a good question. What's a good way to get into like more adventure style photography and filmmaking when you live in a city area like DC area, and what route do you take to get connections in that field? Because it's not, there's not too many connections around here.
Yeah, my immediate headspace is like some of the favorite little videos that I saw when I was getting into this was, I mean, this is getting quite a bit old now, but there's a guy who did like these urban exploration videos where this guy would go into like subway tunnels and explore around New York. And it was like these 30-minute pieces that had very little video cutting, and it felt very much like you were walking along with the person. So watching those videos for me definitely was an inspiration for that style of filmmaking. And I've kind of like remixed that in my own way. I like standing next to like a cliff edge with the person and trying to make the audience feel like they're there. But what that makes me think of is there is lots of people that like doing adventure or unconventional things that end up living in cities for one reason or another. And so my gut reaction immediately would be, there's got to be some really quirky people that do fascinating things within the circumference of DC. And so then the question then becomes like, how do I meet these people? And then how do I end up like filming with them? So my springboard has always been, what am I currently curious about or find interesting? And interesting is like a vague term, right? But that kind of gut reaction of, oh, that's interesting. And I had that experience watching other videos going, oh, hey, slacklining, that's interesting to me. And so I kind of took that on as a hobby, eventually met other people that did it. And then I just kept pulling at those threads till I met some of the people that were doing it at the highest level near where I lived. And I'm from a farm town, and those people are an hour and a half away from me. And so I prioritized like shifting a life that would accommodate making a video about them. So I don't know what you're most interested in DC, but I would think what ends up making, I think, really interesting videos is two polar opposite ideas where they collide. One of my favorite ski segments of all time with JP Eau Claire. It's this urban ski segment through a small downtown BC town on the side of a hillside, and he's jumping through backyards, and it's all these homemade jumps. And it's the mixture.
I think I've seen that. I think I've seen a video from that.
Yeah, it went massively viral. And
wait, was that the one with I think it was one of the big companies did it.
It was Sweetgrass or one of those like big ones.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
No, Sherpa Cinema. I think it was Sherpa Cinema.
It's still, I know the song of that one. Yeah, that was one of my. I remember that video from like 2 years ago. That was one of my favorite short videos I've seen.
I think what works so well about that is that it's like polar opposite random things that are colliding together. And that's probably what I would encourage you to like heighten your senses of your surroundings, and just anybody that does something weird and quirky in your area, and there has to be some weird and quirky stuff. I would try to find the adventure in that, even if the context looks. So my bias was there isn't mountain sports that look like the highlining I'm seeing right now in films in my area, which is comically hilarious because we have some of the best terrain for that kind of thing. And my brain just didn't see it. So Everlanders, thanks for popping in. Take care, Jason. So I had always seen videos of people doing this in Chamonix in France and down in Utah where it was like this red rock. So I just didn't mentally picture that happening in my backyard. And when I found out it existed, that kind of blew my mind. And obviously that's not quite a fair example because I mean, the mountains that are within like really quick access from where I live is super helpful for that. But even like living that far out of the main city where this stuff happens, being an hour and a half away, I kind of assumed that that stuff wasn't happening near me and was pleasantly surprised that it was. So that's kind of just my thought. You might be surprised about what exists nearby. And
Yeah,
that's what I try to tease
there
out
used
if
to
I
be
were
there
you.
used to be these like street. They're called street meets. They're throughout cities in America. There used to be those
Right.
that I'm not sure if it still exists after the pandemic, but where it's just like these giant like 1,000 or not that I mean 100, couple hundred people gatherings every month around this area where just a bunch of models, bunch of photographers get a bunch of connections there with people. And just bunch of photo opportunities at those, but haven't
Oh, that's
haven't been
cool.
one of those in like a year and a half or something. But hopefully post pandemic they can have them. And I've been trying to get into like more storytelling photography as like the press side, because that's
Right.
what's easiest to do around here. But problem is when I'm going these places, problem is as one person crew is trying to go to these places and try to photo and video slash trying to tell a story with video while trying to get photos. It's kind of hard to do it both at once, because normally because I'm a photographer first and I see like a very newsworthy event, my first instinct is try to get photos. That's my primary, and a lot of these things only happen once. When something event will only happen once, and it's hard to try to balance both and get both at the same
For
time.
sure.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
why
I can relate to that. I wasn't really, I made a choice pretty early on that I didn't want to focus on photography, so it was easier for me to let that go sooner. But that is certainly a unique challenge when, I mean, a certain image for you might be a career defining image, and it's harder to
Yeah.
say that about a specific video shot sometimes. So that's an interesting tension.
Yeah. Like it's because I think of photos as the more reliable way of capturing the story, because a video is a lot more process into going in. If you mess something up, then you ruin that. You're never gonna get that shot again. That's kind of the way I think of it. So it's the safety first and then video second. That's kind of the way I think of it.
Thanks for popping in the live call, Eli. This is fun to hear about what you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Sweet. Do you just
care.
Okay, thank you.
I'll click a button here. Yeah. So as a reminder for those just popping in, we are taking live calls from guests. There's a link pinned at the top of the chat. You click that and it takes you over to StreamYard, and you just don't have to download anything. You can just join as a guest. So I'd love to have a few more people on. I think we'll go for maybe 20-ish more minutes. I'm not going to go crazy long tonight, but these are going to become a weekly occurrence, and we'll also try to fit them in to morning slots as well, especially for those. I know I was getting messages from people in London and stuff saying it's not fair that you're doing it late because that's 4 a.m. And I totally know what you're talking about. So I'm just scanning chat here to see if there's any questions. I know Jeff's got one here, so I'll pop it up. If you have primarily shot videos for other people and are thinking about editing and releasing your first short piece, what is a good strategy in 2021 on YouTube? A good strategy on YouTube is to make stuff that you personally find interesting, because if you find it interesting, there's going to be other people who do. And asking yourself the question of how will somebody find this? And you can make videos that are human optimized and search engine optimized. So 2 examples from my work would be an editing tutorial that is a very searchable title, like how to add film grain in Premiere Pro. And then another example would be winter camping alone in the Sprinter van, or whatever I titled it. So I don't think most people are going to be searching winter camping in a self-converted van. I don't think people are going to search that. But when that comes across their feed, it sparks an interest. They want to see what it is. They click it, they watch. The other version is an answer that they're deliberately looking for, and that's how they find your video. So it's search optimized. And I try to have somewhat of a mixture of both. So sometimes I'm making a video that could be titled or searched for either way. Like it could be actually found by someone searching for it, or I'm banking on it just showing up in suggested. When I was starting out, I definitely prioritized the search based ones and then sprinkled the vlogs in between there. So if I have a big project that's coming up, I would want a lead way building up to that, where I'm starting to build traction on YouTube and actually get videos finished and published, because it does take a lot of time. Whatever your interest areas are, or whatever communities you're involved in, make sure that you're posting into those communities. So that way, make sure you're actually like a part of them actively. So that way, when you finish a video that's relevant to those communities, it's not like you're spamming it there. It's like you're actually just participating as a member of it, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's that. I had someone up on deck and they disappeared. So that's a bummer. Oh, they came back. David Yates, I'm pulling you up. So mute the YouTube video feed if you can, and I'll get you.
All right.
Right on, Dave. Davis, is that right?
Davis, yeah. You hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Cool.
I'm getting a touch of an echo because you don't have headphones, which is fine. But that just means that we won't be able to go back and forth tons. So my question to you is, do you have a question, and where are you from?
So I'm from Denver, Colorado. Kind of a little bit west of Denver, like a half-hour drive. And I guess the question I had for you is just, how do you get your next ideas for adventure filmmaking projects?
That's a tough one, specifically because I've been looking for one lately. For me, like, my criteria of what makes a project interesting or worthwhile is like a multitude of factors. Like, is the project interesting? Are the people interesting? Does it seem like it could be a nice challenge? There's all these little factors that go into it for me. And I haven't found one lately that is meeting some of those things. And I've been trying to think through some creative mixture of like, what kind of sailing project mixed with mountaineering could I do? What kind of urban thing that could I do? And honestly, I've been coming up short on ideas. So I don't really have a great answer of how to solve that besides actively asking your curiosity what it's interested in. So that's where I'm at currently,
Right.
Davis.
It's all good. It's kind of a tough one anyways. I've been having a tough time with that one too, just because like it's really rewarding when I can find a project that I'm passionate about and I can go do it. But then once I finish it, I'm like, man, what's next? It's always the tricky part of that. But
yeah, I don't know the best way to solve it besides like continuing to do things that make me uncomfortable. So I'm never sure what scenario is going to link to the next one. So if I stay stagnant and I stop learning and I stop trying things that are new and hard, that's when I know, oops, we gotta mix things up a little bit. So I don't think it's appropriate for me to be making like a ski touring or backcountry access focused video anytime soon, because my experience is so low. But that's like a new area that I've been growing my skill set in. And by doing that, that might unlock a new way of thinking or meeting new people. And maybe that will eventually cascade into a project, or it'll just be like an interesting way to make videos on YouTube, which is totally acceptable, or it just stays a hobby. But I'm glad that I'm picking up something new and it's like challenging and stretching me a little bit. But anyhow, what kind of videos do you make projects about? What kind of projects do you make videos about? Yeah, what kind of projects do you make videos about?
Well, actually, kind of similar to what you do. So, I mean, I'm really drawn to the adventure storytelling type stuff and like sports. It's exhausting, but it's also pretty cool stories. So I feel like I'm drawn to that niche. But yeah, I feel like also finding cool people, like people with cool stories or people who are doing cool adventures. That's like part of it. Cause I'm not so good at like coming up with the stories, but I love actually capturing them and then like putting them out there.
Sure.
So that's probably it might be the norm though. I don't know. It's just that part doesn't come as naturally to me. But
yeah, I always felt a little insecure that like the proper filmmakers that I looked up to in life always seemed to be the types of people that were writing down ideas at the bedside table and always had these like new scripts that they were working on, and that's what a storyteller was. And then I kind of just have gotten a lot more comfortable with the idea that most of the things that I'm going to get most excited about aren't actually my own ideas. It's the opportunity to highlight what I see someone else doing that I think is unique. And that's kind of, I've come a lot more comfortable with that being the main thing, that being like my storytelling focused, rather than feeling like I have to keep coming up with all these new and original ideas. But anyhow,
that's a good insight. Yeah, I resonate with that. That's
I
solid.
meant like at the end of, I don't know if you caught it, but towards the end of last year, we uploaded a video of the behind the scenes of shooting with the Sony A7S III for the first time. And the script that I was writing for that piece was around that headspace of reconciling the fact that I don't have many of my own ideas, but I get my ideas from other people. And that was the goal. And that was supposed to be uploaded a while ago. And it's a bit of a creative struggle right now to find the motivation to wrap it up in a way that I'll be proud of, but I need to do that very soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so like sometimes I just want something done right. Like I have this project right now I'm working on, where I went up to a 14er in Colorado with my buddy, and
Yeah.
he mountain biked it at sunrise, and it was pretty challenging. But I've been sitting on the footage for like 4 months, and I'm like, I wanted to get out there, but it's just hard because I'm like, oh, this has to be like perfect, and that's the thing. I'm trying to find the balance between like, how do I like put out stuff that I'm proud of, but also like not dwell on making it perfect, because that's kind of a tough balance to hit. But just kind of a process, slowly working on that, and I don't know, maybe it's common.
Yeah, I never thought of myself as a perfectionist because I associated that with people that were really clean and those kinds of things. But then I'm realizing more and more that I do get in my own way a lot with finishing things, and that's because I want it to be better than I think it is. And so I gotta work on that myself. But thanks for popping in, Davis. I appreciate this. It's fun chatting with you.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, Levi. Thanks for the insights. Have a good one.
Okay. Take care, man. This is so much fun. So I'm going to look for another question here in the chat real quick. I haven't been doing a good job at keeping up reading it. Adam was asking, loving the amount of live streams lately. What's the motivation behind doing these more? And I always try to tune in before bed over here in Winnipeg. So yes, I would like to do these earlier in the day, but I have to work around the schedule of my sleeping daughter. So it's not always as clear what time of day to do it. Why am I doing them more? Because I enjoy it, and it's an easy way to like have a touch point quickly with my core community. So I've just noticed that I don't really have a huge drive for more growth as far as like bare metrics, like this many views per month, this much subscriber growth. Like that's not what's driving me. And what I'm trying to get more centered on right now is the why behind what it is that I'm doing. And a big driver for making YouTube content is making stuff that I enjoy, and then also stuff that I think helps other people. And I've felt a little bit out of touch about what other people find helpful in the past year. So if I'm going live and I'm asking questions, it helps me get a little bit more in tune with the pulse of that. And I think that as a whole will help me create better content, better videos. And also I think it's just straight fun. So it's not very hard to do. And now that we're less nomadic, it's a lot easier to do them more. So if you're unfamiliar, I used to do live streams about every other week, and I would do these kind of live ones like this. So we've got Golden Press Studio on deck. I'm going to pull you up here in a sec. For anyone else wondering, there's a link at the top of chat. You can click on that link, and I may add you into this. So please do that. I would love to have you on live here. It'd be fun to just chat things through and just yeah, whatever questions you may have. And if you don't want to jump on video, that is a-okay. You can just pop a question in the chat here as well, and I'll try to answer it. I'm just looking through here. Number Juan Bust. Great job on these live streams. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to read one more here real quick, and then I'll pull you up Golden Press. Hey, man, I'm a music teacher teaching online now due to COVID. I'm looking to improve my video lessons. I have very little equipment, i.e. only an iPhone 11. Any advice for shooting on a phone? Cheers. My biggest issue with mobile shooting is audio usually. So what makes education content really hard to digest is if it's not good audio. Most of what's taught over video is a mixture of what's visually happening and then also what's being said, obviously. And I think investing in some sort of wireless lav system to go into the iPhone would be a really great call here. So I know that Rode makes one that is like this little tiny mic pack. So I would start to try to get great audio. If you're shooting indoors, have the phone as close to you, that kind of thing. Also, if you're actually like looking for good video quality, make sure that the settings that you have in the back end are optimized for the way that you're trying to deliver it. So make sure that you're shooting at a frame rate that works well for indoors. So make sure that you're manually setting it to 24 frames per second because that lets more light in. Shoot at the highest resolution that your phone allows you to. Copy the files off your phone to a computer to edit them so that the way they're the highest quality, or edit them in an app. You can tap and hold for exposure on an iPhone. That like flickering exposure is often something that makes video feel cheap. But so much about what makes video good is the content. So that's the area that you got to focus on the most, I think. Not that I know your current quality. That's not a dig or anything, but some of my favorite YouTube content is made on phones. So there certainly isn't that certainly isn't a barrier to good video, if that makes sense. Hopefully that's somewhat helpful. Golden Press. I forget your first name again. Is it Jared? Or am I way off?
Yeah, that's it, man.
Is it actually
No,
Jared?
that was it.
Okay, that
Yeah.
is like that's a 1 in 100 moment for me. Like I will not get that right for people that I went to high school with. So this is shocking to me. My brain is so visual that I was seeing like a name that was with a J and then an ED. And so I just had to fill that in because like it makes zero sense. But your username's coming up as Golden Press. So, it's hard to remember. How's it going?
Yeah. I figured that'd make it more memorable so you remember from last time. Yeah, for sure. No, it's cool, man. I actually just I sat down, was watching some shows with the wife, and I saw that you went live. I was like, why didn't I get notified? What's going on, YouTube?
Let me know in the chat, people, if you got notifications at all. I don't know who all got notifications, but that might be a thing. I don't even know how many people are actually tuned in right now, so maybe that would be a fun thing for me to check out. But do you have anything specific that you want to chat about, or just want to hang out?
Yeah, we touched a little bit last time we had talked about just the trouble with converting IG followers to YouTube subs. And I know that's like a tough thing, but I was just curious because, like, I mean, you've been doing this a little bit longer. You got some experience in that realm, and yeah, it's just something that we're in the process of right now. We're trying a ton of things. You know, I talked a little bit about, like, we do a lot of the screen printing stuff, and so we actually just got through doing a big giveaway with a bunch of like screen printing ink, and we always see a little bit of a boost during that time. But yeah, just because we have a pretty decent following on Instagram, and then trying to, you know, convert that over seems to be quite the challenge.
Yeah, you're not gonna like this.
I figured. Yeah.
My go-to reaction is that it's one of the more difficult things to ever do is to get people from Instagram to leave Instagram and do other things. So I mean, a couple of things. What I would do is like show the work that you're working on. So a one-off plug probably won't cause someone to leave Instagram and go watch it on YouTube. But what you can hope for is if someone sees something being talked about on Instagram, when they encounter that on the space of YouTube, they're more likely to interact with it. So right now, I don't have any growth coming from Instagram to YouTube. My only Instagram growth is because I have an Instagram link in the description of my YouTube videos. So my focus on Instagram growth probably ended around 2013 for me, where I just had to decide, okay, am I going to do YouTube or am I going to do Instagram? I'd grown the channel, the Instagram feed up to about 10K, primarily driven from like interaction based growth. So, hey, if I go through a hashtag and just interact with, like, it's basically spamming likes and comments. It's not my most proudest moments.
Right.
But hey, if I interact with other people's content, they might come to my content and they might like it and follow as well.
Sure.
Never really got into the whole follow unfollow thing, but
Oh, no.
like doing the interaction based stuff is the early Instagram growth. But what the problem is that Instagram doesn't want people to leave the platform. So if your
Sure.
content is constantly being a thing that is causing people to leave the Instagram app, big surprise, they'll probably put your content in front of people less. It's just like the hard truth. So right now, if I do a swipe up link in an Instagram story, I'd be shocked if it got 10 swipe ups. Like and that right now I'm roughly 20K on Instagram. So that's for like a piece of content. So if I'm telling them to go watch a YouTube video. So what I'm banking on is that if I show people the videos that I'm working on, it'll just be in their mind more. So if they are on the platform of YouTube. So I don't know if what that makes you think about for your current Instagram size, but what I would probably focus on is how do I find people that are already hanging out on YouTube and interested in these topics, and just prioritize finding growth there. Cause I think the people who are your most dedicated Instagram followers, if you just show the videos that you're working on to them, that will likely cause them to seek you out, but there might not be as clear of a correlation of this post caused them to come watch this video, if that makes sense. At least that's been my experience with the platform. It is very challenging to interrupt their feed. So then a flip side of that is you could also just bring the content to them in that feed. So you can pleasantly disrupt them with something that's slightly better than they were expecting on Instagram. So you could put the extra effort into making the videos work really well for the platform of Instagram, which is arguably something that would be really wise for me to do, because there's a whole attention base that I'm not tapping into that just exists on Instagram. But yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
I mean, whenever we first started it out, that was no, it's funny. Like when we first started out trying to implement video into our business, the goal was to like open up we wanted to share who we were and our personalities and stuff with our customers, was essentially the goal behind it. And then we were like, well, we kind of, like I said, developed this following on Instagram. It was like, we should maybe do some educational content, maybe try to help out some beginning, we started getting a lot of questions and DMs on screen printing stuff. And so like, man, we should probably try to, share a little bit of the knowledge that our screen printing, our boss is the screen printer that he has, and all the years of experience and stuff that he has. And so we're trying to still find, I think, what our specific spot is on YouTube. There's some that are just straight education. And we tried to do like a balance of like, because I come from making videos in church, and like I have a very story based process. Like I love documentary. I love that style of shooting. I've shot a couple of mini docs, and like that's my flavor. And so trying to like mix that into educational screen printing videos is a little different.
Yeah, and I don't know what the sweet spot is, right? Because I mean, half of like it depends on what some of your goals are from the screen printing YouTube channel, but I mean, half the battle is just having content to be putting out there, and then the other half of it is this going to be helpful for the people that watch it? And like sure. I'm never quite sure where I'm existing on that spectrum of just being something for someone to watch versus, hey, there's an insight in this video that's maybe helpful. Like it kind of just, it's a little bit of a spectrum for me, if that makes sense. But
yeah,
that is tough. I remember how badly I wanted behind the scenes style content from some of the creators that I really looked up to when I was starting. Like I was watching Devin Supertramp long before he ever uploaded a behind the scenes video. And I just wanted to see him working. Like I just wanted to see him filming a thing. And that was such a strong desire for me. And so I would imagine some of that same desire exists for like wanting to see the behind the scenes workings of just like, hey, this is what it looks like to do this in the most boring, mundane way. Even if it's just like a tour of a screen printing shop, like those most basic things.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that fits in with like the quality storytelling that you want to like weave into that. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, yeah. Well, we've been experimenting with it for sure, and I think we've gotten a couple really solid videos that I'm really happy with. I'm really happy with the way that they've turned out, and so that's been fun. We just put one out this last Friday that was like it was for Valentine's Day, like a love letter to the company I was telling you that we partnered with, and and I think that actually did really well, and was also like in conjunction with our giveaway that we were doing with the ink and stuff, and that one felt really good of like, hey, we're providing value and we're giving something back to the community, but I also get to do like a cool story about the way that our partnership developed with that company. And so it kind of satisfied that creative need in me, and also, you know, like our goals as a company at the same time. So we're trying to find that balance consistently.
For sure. Okay, so the one thing I'd leave you with on the transitioning from Instagram to YouTube headspace, if you didn't pick up from the last live stream we did, read the book Show Your Work by Austin Kleon.
Okay.
I think that would I think help create a framework for thinking about like less of, hey, like promoting the video to go watch it, like hey, go watch this video, we just finished it. It would reframe a way of doing that would feel more natural on the platform of Instagram. And then alongside that, I would say using the best effort that you can to make stuff that would be interesting to your desired audience on YouTube. So like do that job well. But then if you are trying to reach your people on Instagram, it's probably going to be like a 7-to-1 ratio to really bring over that 5 to 10% that would come. And so if that 7-to-1 ratio doesn't sound worth it, then that's just like sometimes it might be worth just letting Instagram be Instagram. Like, hey, this content's for this platform. You can just stay here. But if you are trying to get some of those people to come over to YouTube, I would think of it as like literally I have to make 7 points of contact that this thing exists over here on YouTube for that 10 to 15% to actually move over. Cause it's like, it's very hard to get like the speed at which stuff gets consumed. Like just, I mean, it's very hard to do right now, but if you actually like look over someone's shoulder as they're consuming Instagram and it's not you that's doing it, you will see literally how fast stuff gets moved through. And it's just like to disrupt that and get them to leave the platform is real tough. So hopefully they're interested.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very true, man. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's always good to like verbally process that stuff and then have somebody that's, you know, you can bounce those things off with. So
yeah,
man,
I've reached
appreciate
a place where I try, like I completely half-ass my efforts of getting people to leave Instagram and come. Like I do the bare minimum. So I will do a little screen record of my video on my phone and then like do a swipe up link, and then 30 people will. And I know the goal isn't to get people to actually swipe up there. It's just to be like a place that's letting them know, hey, there's a new video. So when you're on the app, keep an eye out for it. I could be like, do not look at my Instagram strategy as any amount of like replication. It's just like, it's not, there's no strategy. If there is strategy, it's, hey, let's just show what I'm doing sometimes. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Good to have you on again, Jared. Thanks for popping in.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Always good.
Okay. Have a good evening. Social Pants. Thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Platform science aside, I love what you do. Adventures and life learnings. Keep killing it. Don't overthink it. Isn't that interesting how we love overthinking things that we care about and we just make it more complicated? That's what live streaming is about for me. There's a lot of concepts that I want to get out there in the world. And honestly, making finished videos about them is getting in the way. That's why we started the podcast this year with Make Stuff Club. That's why I'm actively trying to get live on the platform more, even if I'm not doing a good job of letting people know that I'm doing it. I'm just trying to stop overthinking things. So hopefully that works out. Let me take a look through here real quick. What are you using for long-term storage? Currently, I archive to just external hard drives. So I've got one of them right here. So this is an example. That's not in focus. So this is 015 8 terabyte backup A. So this is the A copy. There's a B copy. Once the project is done being worked on, it gets archived to duplicate copies. And I like external drives because the case is built into it, and it's really easy to plug this in and get access to the information. I don't have to put it in a hard drive toaster. I'm paranoid that bare drives, I'll break the controller pin on it. So I don't like using bare drives because I don't like having to be worried about what case they're in. And you're not saving, most of the time, you're not saving any cost doing a bare drive. So I buy external ones in cases already. And I buy probably 4 8 terabyte drives every year at a minimum. And I just copy it to both of those. And then I have an application that I just found on my Mac called Disk Catalog Maker. And that allows me to scan the contents of that drive. So that way, when I'm sitting at my desk and I'm wondering, hey, where's that one project again? I can like look through a virtual category of what's all in the content. Okay, we're wrapping up here real soon. We've got Noah on deck. So Noah, I'm going to pull you in here real quick. If there's any last and final questions that people want to ask, pop them in the chat. But it's time to go to bed soon because I got an adventure to go on tomorrow. So Noah, how are you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. What do you want to talk about?
I'm glad you can hear me. Do you ever take deep dives and just start like devouring as much as you can about a certain subject or topic? Film related, not film related, just, you know, the fun learning process that always happens. Is that you as well?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm ADHD diagnosed, and that's like that's a quintessential characteristic of that of that skill set. Let's call it a skill set, hyper focus. So it sometimes happens at the least opportune times where I'll laser focus in and just become really fascinated with a topic that I have no business being as fascinated with it as I am. And I'll just research the bejesus out of it. And sometimes that ends up becoming like a new thing that I'm interested in. And other times it was a complete, utter waste of time. But that's just like, I wish I could selectively target this laser focus more. But do you do something similar?
Oh, yeah. Right now I've been learning about live mixing for audio. And so, you know, like compressions and gates and reverbs and all that kind of fun stuff. Because I do live streaming now. That was something that has come up recently, and I just started diving in, you know, because when you record just a few tracks or channels, you don't really need to do the effects heavy kind of stuff or getting into the parameters of that kind of thing. But for some reason, it just clicked in my mind, and I just started going in deep. And you open the world, and you're like, I think I know a little bit about sound, and then you get into it, and you're like, oh, there's so much more here than I ever realized. So it's really fun. But yeah,
I ran into an issue lately. So I'm I'm just using the built-in tools that Shure has for the SMV7, whatever the heck this thing's called. I always forget. Your podcast mic. The MV7. My gosh, the Shure
new
MV7.
one, right?
Yeah, the new one.
Cool.
I got the new one because it's like I don't have to use an interface. So on the road, it's really simple. Like I have an audio interface, and I got this because it's a dynamic microphone. So like they have built-in settings that are acceptable for compression, EQ, that kind of thing. But one of the annoying parts is that with video capture, with the lag on HDMI, syncing up the audio, and then it's like, what device am I using to offset the audio input to the video input? So when I'm going live to Zoom, it's like, okay, what is my chain of process here, so that way when picture meets sound, they're together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found that there's a virtual cam now with OBS that allows you to, do the frame delay or the audio delay, and then take in a virtual camera into Zoom. But I noticed you're using what is this called? Something Duck?
This is StreamYard.
StreamYard. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm actually using OBS to virtual camera through. So I'm not using OBS's tool. I'm using NDI has a output tool.
Oh, cool.
So I'm using that into here. So I still have all my, like, I can use my classic switchers. I can cut camera scenes here, and that's all happening inside of OBS itself.
Super
and then the struggle is I was trying to take Zoom calls live through OBS, and I was running into all these audio delay issues, and I eventually just did a hack together version of it on my last Q&A live stream. But like, I'm using StreamYard because it has this capacity to take another viewer on in a fairly low latency fashion, which appears to be working. Like, this seems to work.
Yeah, for sure. I just paused the YouTube video that's in another window, so that way you and I could have the focus here, and I could hear you with very little delay. Interesting about like software platforms now. So you have OBS obviously, but there's like Wirecast. Livestream has Studio 6, which also has integrated guests. You have Zoom, you have Skype, NDI. So you have all these platforms now that offer this like remote guest kind of interaction. And I'm really curious to see what other people are using or how they have it all set up, because it seems like Zoom is still winning in that kind of battle of that too. So.
Yeah, I think a few friends that record podcasts just use Zoom's Go Live tools, and that is acceptable-ish. So I could hypothetically use Zoom instead of this. And the bummer is that this is like only a 720 stream, and I'm paying $30 a month for the service. And thankfully go for it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You know what I'm curious about? I just got in this new device from Blackmagic, and it's Stream Bridge. So if we both have ATEMs, you could basically like NDI to this device, and it does like HDMI or SDI output. So it's supposed to be a very low latency way of transmitting stuff back and forth. I haven't gotten to test it yet, but I wonder. All of this kind of stuff is definitely like the future of live streaming, I think. And it's really interesting. Like, I think NDI, it's almost there where it's going to kind of take over what we're doing. But it's super interesting. Sorry to go down that tangent with you, but it's kind of fun.
Oh no, that's fun. That's fun. I appreciate the quantity of tools that are available for what we're doing right now. And it's just a matter of like, I think some people, meaning well, were recommending a lot of options for taking on calls last stream, but what they're forgetting is I need to be able to like pull people on. And so like removes, like, it makes the Skype NDI option really tough. Like, I know Kate was just asking here when I'm saying NDI, am I talking about the standard from NewTek? And yes, that is, NewTek has this standard for low latency video protocol that, so yes, I'm using their tools, and I completely just brain farted. But yeah, like I'm surprised that there's not more people that are trying to do, like, because another option that I considered was using Discord and using their built-in call features and creating specific rooms that people get queued up into. And then, because Discord video calls is a little bit easier to integrate into an OBS setting anyhow, but it'll be a work in progress.
Yeah, I've heard of like Microsoft Teams too. So yeah, I haven't just seen a lot of comparisons though. Everybody is like, this is the product, or this is what we do, but they haven't really like directly compared it to a lot of other options. So that might be something cool to do. For question, when you were first starting YouTube, you still had clients. Obviously, you have clients and stuff now too. But when did you feel comfortable and more confident to just do YouTube, like, and make that a more serious commitment versus like, I'm going to do this sporadically whenever I can? I feel like I'm still in that ballpark of like, YouTube would be a nice thing if I could ever force myself to focus long enough to do it. But I have, clients and other paid work that takes precedent,
Yeah. That's what I love about it is that can be like so highly customized to whatever life circumstance you're in. And so whatever bandwidth you're able to hack aside to like cut out certain things in your life to make more room for it, like it's totally customizable for whatever stage you're at. So like if you've got kids or if you've got those scenarios, there's one way you could approach it. And if you're in college and you've got classes, there's another way to approach it. For me, I envisioned a day where YouTube could play a bigger part in where I put my finished projects. And the problem with that was the audience wasn't there to make that like a reality.
Yeah.
And so if I had a place to put my finished projects, hopefully that would mean that it was a place that I could also use to generate income for the whole cycle of what it is that I'm doing. And so I treated YouTube as kind of like an upload platform for the first 5 or so years that I was using it, not really treating it as like a creator headspace. And right when Casey did daily in 2015, that kind of like reminded me how important it was to be working on the like audience building skill set of actually showing up in person for the potential people that might be interested in what you're doing. And I knew pretty sure out of the gate that I'm not really entertaining enough or XYZ enough to like generate audience off of just sheer amazement of who I am. Like that's not my most redeeming quality. So I knew I like had to slowly hack away at it. And so I was probably investing more time than was appropriate for 2 to 3 years, where I was uploading on average 3 videos a month. And those videos would take quite a bit of time. And so that was kind of like my hobby. That was like my thing. So I wasn't watching tons of shows at the time. I wasn't doing tons of things. I wasn't biking. I wasn't running. I wasn't doing much besides work on client work and then work on my YouTube work. And then relationship time with my fiance, then wife. Like that was kind of my world. And so in that picture of my world, so much took the backseat. And for me, I was like, okay with making that decision. For some people, that doesn't work. So I would pick and choose and scale that with however you choose to spend your time. But I did have a headspace early on that I was okay with investing a lot of time and seeing no money from it for a long time. And I don't know what better version to do what I did would have been. Like, I don't know if working my full-time job longer to save up more money so that way I could then like pay myself to just like create YouTube for 3 months. Like, I don't know what version of life that would have made for me, but I felt like I couldn't do working for anybody else longer than I'd already been doing it. So I kind of like quit the work I was doing and went into freelancing full-time instead of part-time, and decided that YouTube was going to be a big part of this whole vision all at the same time. So it's like my whole life got turned upside down. So there was no like phasing it in slower. It was kind of like all part of like the plan.
Yeah.
And I'm like blown away. Like, people can grow on YouTube much quicker than I did. And people are doing that every day. And then there's people who have been on YouTube for longer than me and haven't seen anywhere near the growth that I have. So there's like a big spectrum here. And so going into it without there being a formula, I would just like really want to make sure that I'm being clear of like, where am I finding the meaning in this? Because even I knew that I had this goal of, it would be sweet to hit 100K on the platform, because that to me was always like the benchmark of someone who had a channel, like they built a channel. That was always like in my head. All the YouTubers I liked eventually hit 100K. So that was like a thing I wanted to do if I was going to be a YouTuber. Even though that was in my head, I also knew I'm not going to find longevity out of like metrics. And if I was better at YouTube, that probably would have been more engaging for me, like hunting down that growth and that virality, but that just wasn't a skill set I have. So, that was kind of just something that I had to like keep in check pretty early on. And a joke that my wife and I talk about fairly regularly is, okay, like, should we delete the channel? I mean, because my effort on the channel impacts her life experience. Like,
Right.
I think she wants to go to bed soon here, and I'm still streaming and it's 9:20.
Right.
So like the decisions I make about how to spend my hobby time and my work time are actively being interruptions in her experience of life too. And so thankfully that there is some crossover where she enjoys lots of aspects of it. And of course she's like wildly supportive. So like, that's a non-issue, but it is a question to like keep asking of like, it's not worth, there's someone who has like a wonderful quote on this of like, do you have a partner in your life? Is there someone that you would have to get on board with what you're doing?
Yeah, I am also married. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
So this isn't just like pointless. Like
no, I'm following.
I would
you.
say,
It's all good.
I would say it's probably less important to have like, and my dad and my mom are like some of my biggest fans. So this is kind of a ironic statement, but like, it's less important to like have your family members on board than it is whoever like your immediate person that you're actively spending life with. Because if they aren't on board, there's going to be so many friction points. That almost make it impossible actually. Like you'll at that point be picking one or the other because of the quantity of time that it takes. So if they aren't on board and if like maybe they don't want to be in the videos, that's like one stage, or if they don't want you to be working on the videos, that's like another stage. And both of those are kind of like separate in my opinion. So like Janelle had always been really supportive of the quantity of time I was putting into it, as long as I still had like relationship time as a value. And then one of the things that we kind of like grew at over time was her involvement in some of the videos that I was making, and actually having that be a thing that she found joy in and not just like was a burden and was annoying, if that makes sense.
Putting her on the spot, just say, go. Yeah. That's awesome.
Cody Mont in the chat is saying, lol, I'll be very stoked to hit 10K. So like hitting 100K wasn't just like, this wasn't like a headspace where I was like, I deserve to hit this in my first year on the platform.
Sure.
Like I very much saw it as I would like to take the stepping stones required to get there. So you better believe when I hit 1,000 subscribers, that was like, oh, this is so dope. And then when I hit 10K, when I hit 30K, when I hit 50, like all of those milestones were awesome. And I'm way more checked out of those milestones right now for me. Like I'm more looking at, hey, my individual videos that I make, are the people who are aware of me on the platform finding these things interesting, and what about them are they finding interesting, and did I enjoy the making of it? Like that's more where my head is at of if the work I'm making on YouTube is successful or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super cool. It's good reflection too on the development of that. So
I did technically title this as being a creator worth it, and it is questionable, right? Because you could invest so much time and end up getting very little monetary reward. Like that is totally possible. And that's where like, I think one of my favorite manifestations of YouTube is like people's hobbies just lived out on the platform and presented in a way that's interesting. Like I've always resonated with that approach to YouTube a little bit more than, hey, I want to make this into a business. And I think viewers on YouTube can really feel that when they're getting a glimpse into someone's hobby or something that that person's passionate about. And so coincidentally in the video world, there's just so much overlap there that it gets really confusing which is which. And so once I reminded myself that I'm doing the YouTube channel for fun, that's when I like reminded my like, oh, right, I could do a video series about like getting into running. Like that is totally acceptable. It might be one of the favorite things that I do on the channel. Like, so reminding myself that I have the permission to do that, and I don't have to just make adventure filmmaking videos. Like that is something that I'm actively thinking about. And I honestly have no idea once we get to the end of this year, what my content is going to have looked like. I don't know. Oh, geez.
That's awesome, man. No, that's cool. And just the thought of like so many creatives that I've met, they have, the regular thing that makes them a living, right? But then they also have some sort of artistic outlet or some sort of, whether it's music or photography or something to just get their creative juices flowing. And I think that's very necessary in life.
Yeah. So like, I was always sustaining the effort on the YouTube channel through client work. So I edited, shot, and did all the client work alone, and was charging $5,000 to $10,000 per video. And each video was taking me, each video, I was shooting the videos for 2 to 3 days, depending on which style it was, and then editing it for 2 to 3 weeks. So on average, if I had client projects to work on that month, I could be making close to like $5,000 a month. And if we were like living like college students, and so our expenses reflected that, and then the investment into gear that was pretty close in lockstep with that, like it could make it possible for me to be buying the equipment necessary to be expanding my production skill set, and like all those things could be happening at the same time because I wasn't paying for a studio space that was massive. I didn't have employees. I was doing everything myself. But if I was trying to grow a production company, that wouldn't be the way to do that. Like it would have been way smarter to start look at outsourcing certain aspects of it. Oh, why was I talking about that? I was talking about that to say that it wasn't until I think exactly 2 years ago, that's when I did my first like sponsored video. So up until that point, ad revenue on YouTube would have only been a couple $100 a month for me. And I had it turned off just because I didn't really want to have to like see the embarrassing low number and have that. I didn't want to be accused that I was making videos for the ad revenue. If that makes sense. Now that my views per month are higher, I do have it turned on and it does make a meaningful difference. But the first like sponsored videos I was getting was 2 years ago. So that's 8 years into uploading on the platform and 3 years after like uploading 3 videos a month. So someone might look at that time investment and go, that's a very not good business plan. And on the surface, they would be right. But then I would argue on the 10-year trajectory, if I don't completely fall off the map on this platform, like what I will have built in 10 years, I'll be more proud of, I hope, than other ways I could have spent my time. I don't actually know. That's so interesting. Yeah. Oh, geez. Existential crisis incoming.
Uh-oh. And then you have a catalog of all the things you've done over time. Like, I'm sure it's fun to look back and the cringeworthy things. I know, I forget what video it was, the 33-minute video you put out a couple of weeks ago of looking back at your first couple projects. Like, yeah, that's awesome.
Right on, Noah. Thanks for hanging out. I think I'm going to wrap things up here pretty soon.
Yeah, no worries.
Appreciate you.
Have a good night.
Okay. I'm going to just look over chat here real quick, and then we're going to wrap things up. It's definitely time for me to go to bed. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate this. Thank you for the super chat. I think there was one super chat tonight. That's super cool. I appreciate that. I don't know what scheduled time we're going to do these. When are you hitting the road again? I don't know where to go next. We were able to do our cross-country trip because we were able to stay by so many lakes and stuff like that and not be in city centers as much. But it's just like traveling is just really hard right now. So I don't really know when where or when we're going next. We've kind of like found a basement suite setup that we're going to be in for the next little bit and try to find like adventures and stuff to do outside of that. I'd love to go to Utah and Arizona next fall. So we'll see if that happens. Thanks everyone so far who's been popping in. Brett is saying I'm at 30K now, but I had more engagement at 5 to 10K. So I believe that was around the discussion about subscriber chat. And yeah, his other comment was it's not really about subscribers. It's about good engagement. And I would agree with that. Having people that are anticipating the next thing you work on. Let me read this one from Kate. The impression I get is the point of full-time YouTube is 50K and silver badge is 100K is when you can pay for help with editing, social media management, advertising, sales. Yeah. So I'm not like I'm making enough from YouTube. Like the YouTube income alone to me isn't just like the standard ways that you make money from YouTube, like the AdSense, because that certainly is not enough. And so sponsored videos is a part of it. So sponsored videos and AdSense is enough to like pay for a lot of the like regular monthly tools that I need to do this stuff, like the software and those kinds of things. And also the additional Nick, who's on the top of this live stream, I can afford to pay him for help from some of the sponsored video money, but then that doesn't leave money left over to pay me. So for this model to work at my audience size, I need to get better at making things that my audience might be interested in. So what we've typically done in the past is education's been a big part of our year. So we do workshops in person, and that is usually a big part of our revenue. In-person workshops aren't happening right now. So I like in best case scenario, I would have had launched my online focused courses a while ago, the stuff on adventure filmmaking, and I just haven't made it yet. So I'm missing out. Yes, come to Arizona. I will. That is the plan. Can I do these at 10 p.m.? Probably not. It's almost 10 p.m. now. I'm done. I'm ready for bed. Let me look through here. This is better than Zoom for live streams. I agree. Okay, team. This is a lot of fun. Hey, what about merch? That is how musicians make their money. I think yes, but they also go on tour, and there's so many more touch points, and the revenue possible from t-shirts on tour is higher than t-shirts shipped. Like the thing is that I'd have to be getting so many people to buy physical shirts for me to make money. So I like, if I made $8 a shirt, like think about how many shirts I would have to sell to make a meaningful difference on my income. And with my audience size at this scale, I don't want to have to constantly be telling people to buy stuff from me that's just like another physical shirt. So if I had like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of active like people that would want to buy shirts, then maybe that model makes more sense. But like, honestly, I could pitch shirts constantly on my videos, feel bad about it, and only be making like $500, which $500 is $500, but that's a lot of flogging merch at people. So for my audience scale, that's just like, that's a no-go. I'll still tell people that I have stuff. So you can go to leftcoast.co/shop and you can find some sweet swag there that I'm pretty proud of. Life's better when you make stuff, but I'm not gonna make that a big focus of how I'm making money right now. I'm more gonna have that just be like passive in the sense of how I'm marketing it, not passive in the sense of how I'm making the money. I have a question for you. What is the best for you, being a film creator, hyperlapse, or time lapse, and why would you choose it? Like, are you talking about titling something, or are you talking about like pursuing it? I think hyperlapse is really fun. So hyperlapse. Stoked on the A7S III switch from the GH5. Very much stoked. And I think my content shows it. Like if you look at the videos I've posted, besides the ones where I'm just sitting and talking in the van, like if you look at the stuff I've made in the past 5 months, like the quality is up big time. So this is GH5 right here, and the quality is fine, but having good autofocus, having amazing low light is all amazing. Okay, I should let my wife know that she can come down. Just give me a sec here. I could take a couple more questions real quick. You could release a shirt per major doc you make, and that way fans may buy more than one shirt. True. Yep. Yeah. Like I think selling physical products isn't a bad idea. But just the margin on a shirt is so low, and I just don't feel great flogging physical things for people to buy all the time. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I'd way rather like sell coaching calls or something like that. This has all been very helpful. Awesome. Glad to hear that. It's fun to do it. It's so fun, in fact, that I'm delaying finishing. This could be like a whole episode, Ryland. I think following your curiosity and what you're interested in is really, really important. If you're trying to grow a thing, you have to niche. Like being a generalist is not going to work. There's no way perceivable to grow a following in 2021 without having a focus of any kind. Even if it's some multiple focuses, but it's just not going to happen. I think having fun is great. Would you ever have a fan meetup kind of thing in BC? For sure. When's the last thing like that I've done? Oh, that was a while ago, wasn't it? Yeah, I would do that. Should probably wait post pandemic, probably, unless it's in like an outdoor space. But anyhow, Tokyo Craftsman, good to see you. Yeah, we are wrapping up here on the last final questions that keep trickling in, but it's good to have you around. Oh, I should. That's worth talking about. So, you all were talking about. Some of you were talking about t-shirts earlier, and posting this. So something that we're doing this year that's going to be a big focus is pushing people towards membership. So we are releasing more microdoc content soon, and so I'm going to be doing kind of like a mini fundraising campaign around the release of those episodes, and asking people that, hey, if you'd like to see these be done, like it'd be great if you became a channel member. And what that's going to get you is like, we will do streaming parties like at the launch of each episode earlier than them actually being physically public. So it's like getting you early access to the finished episode, and then like special Q&As, those kinds of things. But the main thing of trying to just like, hey, if you like the content that we're making, can you chip in $4 a month to like help us make it, or whatever it costs in your currency? Like that is the kind of shift that we will be making more. And I didn't push that on Patreon as much because I didn't like the platform of Patreon very much. Like I didn't like having to have people go somewhere else. But for YouTube membership, like just right now on the YouTube homepage, like if you're on desktop, you can just click the join button right beneath the video player and you become a member, just like the Tokyo Craftsman. You get the little badge next to your name, like he's got there. I still owe your wonderful wife a hand-turned platter serving tray. Need an address. Yes, let's connect on Instagram. Let's make that happen finally, that we've stopped moving around as much. So membership built into the YouTube platform. Yes, YouTube takes 30%, but it's just such an easy and quick way to have people just put a vote of confidence towards more work. And the best part is that people don't have to do it. So right now, we've been slow in January and December, but like typically throughout the year, I'm uploading little videos on my phone that I'm uploading just for members only. Those are kind of like the super fans, the people that are more invested than your average viewer, and they're just interested in the up-to-date stuff. So giving them a perspective on the content that's coming, that's all like a very valuable thing to do. So if you're wanting like an inside scoop on what's coming next on the channel, like I become a channel member. That's where I tell people what I'm working on next. That's where I share videos that are not quite completed and I'm looking for feedback. So we're going to be pushing more and more people towards that as we get ready to launch these microdoc slacklining episodes that we've been working on. And that's exciting. And I think that's going to be a great way to like have a baseline revenue increase to create more space to make more things. And that's exciting. Do you have any book recommendations for starting artists, content creators? Stephen Pressfield, The Art of War. That is a must read. And then Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. Those are two books that are a must read. If you didn't catch that, this is a DVR so you can rewind. Aside from being a successful filmmaker, who's your favorite filmmaker in the YouTube community? Name at least 3. My favorite filmmaker in the YouTube community. I think it's pretty dope that Matt Diavella just released a full documentary again with Netflix. Like, I mean, what a flex that is. My gosh. I don't know how to pronounce your name because it's Japanese, but there's a Japanese channel that I really like watching that is very cinematic, very filmmaking, and it's kind of like ASMR. Why can't I think of what it is? Someone will know. Not primitive technology. It's like primitive technology style videos, but not. So like what makes primitive technology appealing is the same reason that makes her videos appealing. Can't remember her name for the life of me. Who's the author of Art of War? It is Stephen Pressfield. Stephen Pressfield. Are you still using the XT4? So that was a bit of a bait and switch, right? So I had a loaner model and I was going to switch to it fully and I bought one. And then I made a video with it or two, and like looking on those videos, even though I'm very excited in the videos, in the editing stage, I was kind of like, oh crap, like this actually isn't as good as I thought for what I want to use it for. It's an amazing camera, but to totally leverage it, I need all the lenses. And I don't want to have to buy all those lenses on a system that I'm not sure I'm going to keep using So as much as that system is beautiful, works amazing, is a lot of what I was asking for in a camera. Once the full frame stuff came out, I returned my X-T4. I did. I didn't even open my own box. I was still using the loaner. So thanks Fujifilm Canada for letting me borrow that. Oh yeah. Some people didn't catch that was a bit, which is fine, but it's kind of like a whoosh, like a over their head moment for some people. Not Art of War, it's War of Art. Yeah, I get it's this, that, and the other thing. I get it mixed up all the time. Art of War, War of Art. Yeah, the Art of War is like a whole other book by someone else. That's like very much not the same book. It's like similar to like the 40 Laws of Power, not in the same headspace. Patreon and memberships are effectively the people who count in the 1,000 or 10,000 fans idea, for sure. Like, just think about it, like a baseline of like 500 people pitching in as channel members could make a massive impact on how much effort is responsible to put into YouTube videos without having to increase the quantity of sponsored videos. Hello from Okanagan. I've been creating videos for the last 3 years. In the past 3 months, I've lost complete confidence in myself and the quality of my work. What do you do to get back on track? Same, Mike. Similar spot, dude. I don't know. Small steps, forcing myself to just show up, even though it feels uncomfortable and I'm not motivated. I think the key thing is that like motivation's never going to come, and I just got to accept that. And from there, I might just accidentally get motivated, but I have to first accept that the motivation is not going to come. By the way, are you back in BC permanently or still going around? We are back in BC. Not really seeing people, to be honest, Ken. So that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But there's like a very tight bubble of people that I see sometimes outside. But maybe in the future, that would be fun. James, I think I should take this advice to you. Going to bed, have a good one. I think I'm going to take that advice. That's where we're going to end it. Unless there's a super chat that I missed. I don't think so. It is a little confusing having the two different chats because I don't think super chats show up over there. Dream places to visit. Yeah, I'd love to go to Hawaii. That would be cool. I'd love to go to Iceland. I'd love to go to Greenland. I'd love to go to the Arctic. I'd love to go to Egypt. I'd love to go to Tasmania. I'd love to go to South Island, New Zealand. That would all be fun places. Hello from Thailand. I want to know, how did you took off as a filmmaker? Are you editing and filming for yourself now, or do you do client works here and there? I do client works here and there. So yeah, how did I take off? Well, I didn't take off. It was just a slow, linear process, one project at a time. Investing into the projects that I wasn't getting paid enough for, so that way I had finished videos that could help me get better projects. That's how I grew my filmmaking business. Let me see here. Come to Tokyo. Of course. How did I miss Japan? Yeah, Tokyo Craftsman. Appreciate it. See that little badge, the little member badge? I would say if you found value in this, make sure you turn on your notifications. So there's that little gear icon. Turn that on. Don't miss it. We'll be doing these more. So if you want to actually show up when they're live, I don't give a big heads up. So get the notification. Join live. You can ask me questions. This has been a hoot. It's 9:44. Time for me to go to bed because I'm getting up early to go touring. What a novelty. Should we play music on our way out? Why not? Well, team, it has been fun. I probably won't leave this up. Might make it unlisted, but it's been real. Thank you.